Welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review. Today, we're taking a look at the Mars Tsunuki Yakushima. Dustin, did I say that right? You wouldn't know.
Absolutely not, but I would not know either.
Gosh darn it. All right.
Apologies, guys. This is a fairly new distillery, as I understand it, in Japan. So I don't have enough details and have not been able to watch other reviewers review this one.
I try to get someone to say it on YouTube. You figured that would be easy, but it very quick when we hear it, and we did our best. Anyway, I'll put all the details in the description. 20 ppm, ex-bourbon cask maturation, a 6-year-old, Dustin. But what's interesting about this one is it's actually a peated Japanese malt, and I've always prefer what's the green bottle one?
Oh, Hakushu.
I always prefer Hakushu to
Yamazaki.
Yeah. So I always like a little bit of peat in my whiskey.
Yeah, the Hakushu, honestly, is probably the best 43% whiskey still made today.
Yeah, I saw a couple people recently offering the 18 and 25-year-old. I was interested. Not those prices.
Yeah, no.
It's very expensive whiskey.
I'm struggling with the 12-year-old's price now. It's over $200. God.
Brutal. Good whiskey, though.
Oh, I love it. I mean, it's one of those whiskeys I'd never want to be without, but apparently it's going to happen.
Lemongrass and coal.
There's a density to this on the sweetness that I'm just not used to with the Japanese whiskeys. I really like the cask strength here. It just gives it some oomph. And you're right. I mean, it's coal smoke for sure. It's lemon.
Forgive me, it's 61% ABV as well.
Oh, okay. It's a little higher than I thought.
Wow. It has an intoxicating dirtiness to it.
It starts off with this clean, sweet
lemongrass, yeah.
And there's a really nice, just in general, sugary sweetness to it that you're like, oh, that's very appealing. And then it's just dirty, but yet clean dirty. It's not. It doesn't feel like it's something I don't know. It seems like it's wood smoke, and it's
just a passing thing.
Yeah, it's a refined. It's a mud bath, at a nice. Spa or something.
Like it was intentional, Dustin.
Yes, exactly.
Like it was some type of special smoke.
Now there is kind of a...
Cleanse the city of evil spirits.
There's this sort of butterscotch wood note that comes through here, almost like wood glue and butterscotch. That definitely screams, I'm a little bit youthful. Coming through big time.
The sweetness is interesting. It's a sort of a honey sweetness, but sort of a dank honey sweetness. It's interesting that you call it butterscotch.
No, it's this mid note in the middle of the whiskey.
I know what you're talking
about. It brings with it this weird oak note and youth.
It's almost the bridge between the oak note and everything else that's going on. I tell you what, on the nose, they're making good use of that 20 ppm.
Yeah, there is. I mean, again, but I'm also getting some coal notes. So I don't know if this is coal fire or not, but it smells like it to me. So I don't know if it's got coal fire plus 20 ppms, which. That's just talking dirty to me, Mike.
Yeah, that could be substantial.
That's a 1-900 number. I'm calling. $9.99 a minute. Let's talk.
I tell you what. Again, that coal smoke, the dirtiness in this is just intoxicating for someone who's an Isla whiskey fan. That smells excellent. Who sent this to us?
That's our buddy up in New York.
Well done. The Lagavulin guy?
Yeah. I don't know if I know he's been to Japan a few times in the last couple of years, so I don't know if he picked this up there or if it's just one of his auction pickups.
If he's an Isla fan, this would be right up an Isla lover's lane.
He's a whiskey lover, Mike. He buys it all.
Yeah, I feel you. Or a whiskey lover's lane. Dustin. A lot of other small things happening here.
Yeah, I feel like we're not doing it justice because there's a lot of subtle. It's within that sootiness, there's just some subtleties, but none of it's worth really talking about in my mind.
There's some fruits coming up. There's some type of marmalade here.
There's more here than we're talking about.
Lemon and orange marmalade in the background. It's like always death by 1,000 cuts. There's so much here if I had time to do it, but the overcoat of that smoke is just whew.
Yeah, if you take it away from yourself for a little bit and let it build up, the fruitiness really comes back in.
I don't want to.
And then, one whiff and the fruitiness is in your nose, and then the next whiff is all dirty.
Yeah, it's an accurate description, Dustin, of what's happening.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, some type of a tangerine orange chutney. Not very acidic orange. Real nice.
No, it's just really nice, sweet. It's
white peach.
It's a little bit, it's just light, hard candy, off in the distance. Very, very inviting on the fruits. Very inviting smoke. And then that a little bit of like off note of youth. That wasn't there. This would be epic.
I can't tell you how hard it is not to just instantly gravitate after a whiff or so of just right back into the smoke. Such an interesting sootiness. It's sootiness that doesn't stick, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And there's a little bit of, vanilla tan in there from just the smoked oak, which is beautiful.
I'm almost getting like some type of toasted vanilla note. Well, maybe.
Yeah, again, like there's that toasted vanilla coming from the oak. I mean,
maybe almost like a marshmallow melting on a stick. Bubbling, maybe.
Touch key lime pie in there, even.
Yeah, there's.
Although the pie crust is burnt.
This smells like a nice day. Excellent. I'm going in.
Yeah, this is a little bit of like, it's almost like Tootsie Roll if somehow you were able to like extract the chocolate almost completely out of it. It has that nougaty kind of like note. God, that smoke is so interesting. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Ardmore's peat, a little bit. I'd love to try this with some age to compare it to the Ardmore we had. Or I guess I could bring a young Ardmore, but that's no fun. I want older this.
What an encompassing experience. Soot, smoke, lemon. Wow. Dirty vanilla. It really stings the tongues. Stings the side of the tongue. Man, a excellent oak note. Prickling spice right here at the end. Nothing's over the top. Nothing more than a 6. I said prickling spice. I don't mean prickly. Prickly was maybe the wrong word to say. Aggressive spice.
The ABV and the intensity is more than a 6.
Ooh. Agreed. But all the flavors, there's so many flavor drivers here. Now it's kind of sashaying into that some type of fruit chutney, tangerine, orange.
Yeah, versus the nose, though, it is much sweeter on the arrival, and it holds the sweetness much longer. So the finish is all smoke.
Smoking fruits.
It's smoked fruit, perhaps,
yeah.
But smoke dominates the finish, whereas it's just fresh fruit up front.
It is so mouth coating.
It's oily as hell. And it's drying, very drying.
This is Hawaiian barbecue right here, Dustin, with no acidity.
I don't know about that. I don't get enough, like, barbecue
There's no meats. Yeah, there's no meats here. Just the fruits.
I get the smoked wood. I get hints. I mean, there's... The peat actually is kind of subtle compared to, like, that smoked wood thing. They could all be one and the same, of course.
Smoked bamboo.
It is so much more intense on the sweetness up front than I expected. I'm actually dying for a little bit of water in this one to see what kind of magic happens, because the density on this is really impressive, and it could definitely use a little bit of separation.
This, like a good Highland Park, is very drying, but then it just comes back and gets watery again.
I almost feel like I just took a handful of Skittles or something. I mean, there's just tons of little fruit notes. Not, of course, not that sweet, but just that feeling of like having like multiple different fruit notes all at once. Where they're just kind of creating their own like, artificial sweet thing.
Little fruit basket in the smokehouse.
Yeah. Ooh, the vanilla chocolate note came through huge now with water. Smoke comes right back though. Ooh.
It does. There was a cocoa. It goes like cocoa bean, cocoa chocolate, dirty, filthy smoke.
Now I can start talking
vanilla.
about some coffee notes coming through too.
Yeah, it's a coffee. The coffee bean's right with that dirty chocolate note.
Yeah, it's got like some really like light citrusy coffee notes coming in for sure. A little Kona blend.
Wow, it's a hard distillery to say, but I tell you what.
Yeah, we're gonna have to learn it.
It's an easy one to have an enjoyable drink with.
Like there's certain names that like you would never put the effort to learn if it weren't a good product. Bunnahabhain. Like you look at that and you're like,
it takes commitment.
I don't even care, guys. Or Bruichladdich.
It takes commitment.
Absolutely no reason to learn that until you try the product. You're like, okay. Sometimes the product has to be good enough for you to care. Like, how do I say this complicated name? I think this is definitely a product that's earning. It needs to be a name we know.
Last year, Thanksgiving, with my family in Illinois, they're asking me about a couple of whiskeys. It comes up. How do you spell this? How do you spell that? Bunnahabhain, Brooklady, bang, bang. Knocked them right out. My sister, ex-teacher, says, you still don't know which there to use in whatever situation. How can you spell these two words exactly? I said, repetition. It's repetition. You learn what you want to learn, Dustin, is the real thing. And that's my point. I'll learn how to say that.
Exactly.
This is good whiskey.
You know what I'm excited about, Mike? All this AI stuff that's out there. Most of it, I think, is pretty much useless. But the fact that AI is now going to allow us to effectively, it's going to catch those types of mistakes when you're writing. And two, it's going to summarize my email and sort it in a way that actually makes sense. So I don't have to do that anymore.
I never liked writing work, Dustin.
Me either.
Never my forte.
I didn't like writing. I don't like reading it. I don't like reading the entire email string, man. And so now AI will give me a summary. Kind of like what we're doing for you guys.
Amen. Dustin, this smells excellent with water. I hope it tastes as good as it smells.
Yeah. I am loving the nose on this thing. It just tweaked everything in the right directions. Left, right, north, south. All epic decisions right here. God, it smells good.
Took down the punchiness of it. Integrated the smoke kind of with the whole thing. The fruits are more there, but they're not as dominant in the second part of the experience as they were before. There's kind of now everything's very consistent. It's kind of all there, laid there to bear. Still delicious. Nothing really gets out of joint. It gets disjointed though. It's just, man, well put together.
Just fun. Yeah, it's just fun. It's that sweetness. Now a little bit of sour in a good way comes through. The oak is kind of just all through it. Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is an epic malt. I don't think this was an epic cask finishing, but somehow it's better than the sum of its parts, and that's beautiful.
Man, moment, machine.
Yeah, this is just well put together whiskey. I gotta say, I came in with low expectations, being that it's 6 years old. I don't know the distillery particularly well. I do have the impression this is an expensive whiskey, which is never something I like to see on a 6-year-old product. So maybe I'm overly impressed because of that. But I'm really enjoying this one, Mike.
Look, Dustin, it doesn't matter. It tastes excellent to me. It smells excellent. It tastes excellent to me. I have no idea. 6 years seems young to me. I've never heard of this distillery before, but I know the Japanese put out good whiskey. A. B. Cask strength. It's nothing but a good thing. And you know what? Our people that send us samples, is it ever anything that isn't?
They don't send bad stuff. You're right.
You know what I mean? So to some degree, every time you get a sample like, 6 year, how am I about to be surprised?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Usually people don't try to dump their bottles the last little bit, last pour or two.
No. Although every now and then I do have a friend who'll send me like a blank, unlabeled sample. And those can be a little adventurous.
Well, I tell you what, I'm working on saying this name, Dustin. Let's work on the whiskey score here. I have a hard time not getting real high with this whiskey score. So I'm a temperate. This is my wheelhouse. ABV wise, style wise, a lot of things I like here. I'm to temper my score and say an 88, but I could go higher.
Oh, so you're going to go higher. I actually think it's an 88 neat. I think it's a 90 with water.
Okay, good.
Split the middle. I'm going to go 89.
Oh, that was about there. You're right.
Yeah, I'm really loving it with water. It's actually brought out that like Hakushu sweetness, but at a higher ABV, which cask strength Hakushu 12 probably could be one of the greatest whiskeys ever made. I don't if they ever did that. This is giving me hints of that, which I am loving.
This is better than Hakushu. I'm a fan of that whiskey. Dustin, I appreciate you going.
Hakushu 12 cask strength, though.
Maybe. But I'd say with the smokies of this is, man, really unmatched. Thank you, though, for going a little bit higher on the whiskey score to give me the courage to say what I want to say. This really is an 89. This really is. I'm enjoying this. Maybe this isn't a well-thought-of whiskey, but I think of it highly. I love this whiskey. It's right in my wheelhouse. If you're an Isla fan, you're going to find a lot to like here.
Yeah, I wish it was a little more peaty and a little less wood smoky here. But that's just me, like, tweaking my,
Buddy, I love the smoke in this. It's something different.
Yeah, it is.
I've never quite experienced that before. I'm glad I got a chance to. Excellent.
Like I said, the closest comp I can even think of is Ardmore a little bit. But it's definitely a different experience. And again, this is a younger... I'm just talking about the peat notes, not because Ardmore is a whole different sweetness. This is a whole different thing.
I don't want to say, but there's something. The wispy-esque smoke of that is something that reminds me of. I had a couple of Port Ellens, 20, but the old one, the 36 I had, it had kind of a wispy smoke like that Port Ellen 36. And not nearly where this was up front. That one was just a compliment, but it was a very similar smoke note.
Yeah, I've never had like a 6-year-old Port Ellen, but I could see this actually being kind of comparable in some ways. I mean, again, to me, it's like Yakushu and Ardmore had a kid. But yeah, I can see if Port Ellen came out a little sharper and harsher at younger ages, which I'm sure it did because it was used for blending. Yeah, I could see this being very similar. I mean, it's the problem with Port Ellen, right? I've never had one that are 20 years old.
Yeah. Well, I think it would be late teens, but you're right. Yeah, I've never had one that was.
I think the youngest I've had was 20 on the dot.
Anyway, those are our thoughts on this particular whiskey. If you guys had a chance to try this one, I will put everything in the description. I'd like to hear what you guys think. I'm actually pretty impressed with this one. Just until next time, what do we wish the folks?
Happy drinking and not saying the name of whiskey.
See you next time. Mars.
Tsunuki. And then Yakushima.
Okay. What's the last 2 words? How do you say it?
Tsunuki Yakushima.
Welcome, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review. Today,